Hello guys, welcome to Redditor's Revenge. Here we post amazing revenge stories daily. And if you want more content like this, please do subscribe to the channel and stay tuned with us. Moving to our today's first story, about OP's fiancé, who didn't show up on their wedding day. He was later found cheating on her with their mutual friend. So OP's grandmother plays a sweet old lady facade and destroys their lives one by one. Now story. The characters, ugly hoe, CM, ex-fiancé's witch mother, SF, spineless ex-fiancé. My boyfriend and I were together for 9 years. On our 7th anniversary he proposed and I said yes. But we decided that we'd get married after 2 years so that we'd have time to save up enough for the wedding, and our future kids, etc. Our families we ecstatic except for his mother. I don't know why, but she never liked me since day one and she was not shy in showing it. That is incessantly accusing me of being a whore, but mainly being a gold digger. I'm not trying to brag, but I earn more than her son, and this will be important later on. I came from a well-off and respected family in our community. Whilst preparing for the wedding, his mom took pleasure in being a goddamn pain in the ass. CM would make changes about the details of the wedding without informing me or her precious boy, such as informing my guests that their invitations were revoked to accommodate her chosen guest whom I've never met or heard about before. Mess with the seating arrangements, change the menu and arrangements, etc. I had to pay twice, twice just to revert the changes she made. Of course, it did not sit well with her, so being the ever-mature adult that she is, she cried and threw a tantrum. A ducking tantrum. I am not a confrontational person and I easily get anxious when I feel tension arise. Thank God SF's grandparents from my fiancé's father's side were really lovely people. And of course my beautiful grandma. They were the main reason why I was able to put up with all the bullshit she was doing. Belittling was one of her hobbies, so it did not come as a surprise when she berated me about my wedding dress, which was gorgeous by the way, and it was handmade by my mom's best friend who's like my second mother. It took 1 year and 3 months to finish the dress. In short, the dress was special to me. I never raised my voice nor said anything negative about CM. But the straw that broke the camel's back was when she stole my wedding dress 2 months before the wedding, and destroyed it because she didn't like the design. I had a full-on anxiety attack when I found out about what she'd done. And whilst my anxiety attack, she never lifted a finger to help, but she was on her usual routine, calling my anxiety attack a cry for attention and that I was just being overdramatic. It was too late to fix the dress, so I ended up buying a new wedding dress. By this time we were way over our budget for the wedding because of this monster. Wedding day comes, and lo and behold, my dashing fiancé was a no-show. No one knew where he was and no one could reach him. I was devastated, and a crying mess. And of course, CM thought it was a perfect opportunity to verbally attack and mock me. To be honest, it still hurts me every time I remember this. Up to this day I honestly believe nothing will ever make me feel so pathetic. I showed up to work the following day, desperately trying to distract myself from all the fiasco. And 3 days after, I found out that he had been cheating on me for 1 year with a mutual friend. The worst part was we all worked at the same place. As I said, I am not a confrontational person, so I did my best to avoid them and avoid the drama. But started tormenting me by purposely showing off how sweet SF was, how he treats her like a princess, topped with nauseating public display of affection, and was spreading rumors and talking shit about me just to get me riled up, but it didn't work. With the help of CM, started targeting my family. As I mentioned, my family is well respected in our community, and everyone knew what went down between us, so some of our close friends informed us about H's malicious comments about our family. Of course, my ex-fiancé, being the ever-spineless witch he is, did nothing and sided with his new home. I am close with my grandma. She was the one who raised me when both my parents died. I love and respect the woman. She is the epitome of what a classy woman is. She has this aura that was kind and comforting but can be very intimidating when the situation calls for it, which is why she is well respected and well loved in our community. She always had a smile on her face and treated everyone well. And if it wasn't for her, I don't think I would make it after all that had happened to me. So when H started bad-mouthing her, I was hell-bent on destroying her and my spineless and assless witch ex-fiancé. I was beyond furious at this point, thus I started scheming on how I planned to drag them down. I talked to my grandma about it, but she convinced me not to do so and that I should just leave our hometown for a while to take a breather and take some time to heal myself, etc. After weeks and weeks of discussions, and I eventually saw how everything that had happened, and currently happening, was taking a toll on my mental and emotional health, I conceded defeat to my grandma's idea. So I left, didn't contact anyone from the hometown except my grandma, of course. 2 years passed, and I received an invitation to our high school reunion. By this time, I've been missing my friends and family, so I decided that it was high time to return and reconnect with my old friends and family. Everyone was surprised to see me, but everyone was really warm and welcoming. It certainly felt like I was back home. Everything was going well. I was in line to get a refill of my drink when I overheard two girls blabbering about how H was pregnant, and the father of the child married man. I was curious as fuck, but decided not to pry about it since I no longer want to be in the loop about whatever was going on about them. The following day, I met up with my favorite cousin, and my curiosity got the best of me, so I asked him about what went on when I left. And oh boy, I was not ready for the tea. My grandma always had a gleeful disposition. She always greeted everyone and engaged in small talks with anyone, but apparently, when I left she started to act differently. The happy grandma from the next door was gone. She always had a gloomy smile, and even the way she talks changed. She talked about how bad she felt for me, how she was hurting so much that her precious granddaughter was going through such a rough time, and how it broke her heart knowing that she couldn't do anything to ease my pain. People around us knew grandma as someone who hates to be seen as weak and helpless. Thus it was truly a heartbreaking surprise when they saw grandma in such a state. Despite her lamenting my unfortunate situation, she had nothing but kind words for SF, CM, and UH. Everyone revered me and my grandma for handling the situation ever so gracefully. Their words, not mine. Despite all the bad blood, we took the high road. People now started treating SF and CM differently. They became a social pariahs. After hearing what both SF and CM did and how they treated me, especially CM, most family members cut their ties with them. CM's husband, a good man, but very timid, apparently was my grandma's student, filed for a divorce and declared that CM could have whatever she wanted for the marriage as long as he doesn't have to deal with her anymore. As for SF, most of our mutual friends sided with me through the ordeal. SF was being groomed to be promoted for a takeover as the department chief, and this was huge because if it went through, SF would be the youngest chief in the company's history. But due to what had happened and the fact that his boss was a close family friend of ours, it all went down the drain. SF was not fired from his job because the boss thought it would be such an easy way out, and because my grandma spoke to the boss that firing SF would be wrong and unprofessional and again playing her sweet old lady card. UH was caught having an affair with one of her bosses. Unfortunately, this boss of hers was married. The wife found out about the affair but didn't know who the third party was. Divorce papers were filed, and both parties agreed that it was a no-fault divorce. Until the wife received incriminating evidence of both UH and the boss, which were sent anonymously. Grandma hired a private investigator to collect enough evidence to incriminate both UH and their boss. Not only did the wife sue for 80% of their property, but she also filed a case to have UH's license to be revoked on grounds of moral turpitude. As the investigation went on, they found out that UH and the boss had been stealing from the company. One thing people did not know about my grandma is that she's conniving. She knows how to play that sweet lady card all too well. Here is the little update for you guys. My grandma just told me she saw UH at the grocery store and decided to have a small talk with her. She approached UH with a smile on her face and a bottle of olive oil in her left hand. My grandma is very soft-spoken. With a huge, sickly sweet smile, she proceeded to talk shit about UH. Of course, UH being UH, was pissed and started yelling at my grandma. A fellow shopper saw what went on and called the manager and the security. When the manager asked about what happened, UH began furiously explaining and repeating what my grandma just said to her. My awesome grandma then put on her gloomy smile and said that I approached her because I wanted to know if this was the right kind of cooking oil I was looking for. I couldn't read the label since I forgot my glasses at home. I'm sorry, miss, I didn't mean to bother you, I just needed some help. And this infuriated UH. The manager turned to UH and said, ma'am, the old lady just needed some help. And I'm pretty sure she would leave you alone if you just tell her you did not want to be bothered. My grandma then said, it's all right, sir. I was at fault here. Again, I'm sorry, miss. Hope you have a lovely day ahead. Everyone who saw the commotion gave UH dirty looks at the grocery store, and some were sweet and offered to assist and accompany my grandma while doing her groceries. I ducking love this woman. I know that I'll never be as cool as she is. Ha ha ha. My grandma and I would like to thank each and every one of you guys. You're all really lovely. And she'd like to share a little advice. When someone screws you over, let them think that you are an underdog. And when they are complacent, hit them where it hurts. Now, here is the end of our today's first story. I hope you enjoyed it. And let me know your opinion about this story in the comments section. I would love to read them. So before moving to the next story, please hit the like button and do subscribe to the channel to stay tuned with us for more awesome stories. Now, moving to our final story, in which a douche parks in a reserved handicapped spot in front of our home and gets harassed by the entire neighborhood for doing so. He ends up having to sell his home at a significant loss. Now story. Sorry for making this long, but the context is pretty important. So my little sister, who is the sweetest girl in the world, is 12 years old but can't walk or communicate. Her mental age is around 6 months. She obviously cannot attend a regular school, but since we live in a big city, there is a wonderful school for kids like her. Even though we don't own a car, since we don't need one, we got the city to put up signs in front of our house designating a 4-meter spot for wheelchair pickup and drop off for her school bus every morning and afternoon. The signs went up perhaps 2 years ago, and after the first week we never really had any issues since most of our neighbors are wonderful and understanding of our designated spot. For some context, we live in a perhaps poorer community, though we're well off, but in our 9 years here, we've had nothing but great interactions with everyone here. Sadly, the neighborhood is gentrifying and we're getting more self-centered people with their Mercedes-Benz or Audi honking while my sister gets loaded onto her school bus, which takes around 4 minutes but blocks our little street, which pisses us off, as well as the other sane people that witness it. Naively, we thought this would be the extent of our unpleasant interactions. In September, we woke up like on any other Monday morning to find a shiny BMW parked in our disabled spot. It wasn't just partially in it, it was positioned perfectly to take up the entire spot. To make things worse, there were about a dozen open spots on the block, and it's not like they were all vacated that morning since we woke up at 6 a.m. We were baffled. I'd seen this car many times since last July, and it was the same car since there aren't many red sports cars in our neighborhood. It was usually parked about 20 meters south on our street, so we knew it belonged to a neighbor a few doors down. We did all the basics in this type of situation. We took a picture, took down the license plate, and called the police to report it. The cops came by within the hour and wrote a big fat ticket. I believe it was for $700, but don't quote me on it. Anyway, it was a significant amount. At around noon, a smug, angry guy came knocking on my door. I had the day off from school and was home on my own. It was obvious that it was the owner of the car, so I made a quick decision to record the conversation or screaming match on my phone. I opened the door, and before I could say a thing, the douche lays into me. I'm a 16-year-old girl, and he's in his mid-40s. Midlife crisis maybe. He accuses me of all things, ranging from putting up those signs this morning to frame him to being racist. He was East Asian, I believe, but we have a diverse community. He goes on to say that disabled spots shouldn't even be a thing, that it's always empty, totally shooting himself in the foot based on his previous comments, that we should pay for his undeserved ticket, that it isn't even an inconvenience since the spot next to his was free and my sister could just get on the bus from there. Blah blah blah. Once he finished, I said okay, and shut the door on his furious face. He rang the doorbell another 5 times before storming off. To my satisfaction, the recording caught everything fairly clearly. In the evening, I told my parents what had happened and gave my dad a copy of the recording. We have a pretty tight-knit community, and there is a neighborhood Facebook group with around 3,000 members. My dad decided to post a summary of what had happened along with the recording and a picture of the car in our spot on the page. There was immediate uproar with people saying they would fight back or whatever. We were humbled by the feeling that our community was standing up for us, but we didn't think anything would come of it. The next day, I leave the house to go to school and walk by the guy's car back in his normal spot, and notice that the front right tire was deflated. Upon closer inspection, it was slashed. As I said, our community is tight-knit, but I can't say I expected anything like this to happen. The guy must have seen the Facebook post because he didn't come back to our house to complain or accuse us of anything. The following weeks were sweet. Whenever I saw him in public, people would go up to him and remind him that he was a shitty human being, a bit harsh in my opinion, but they weren't my words. In November, his house had a for sale sign in the window. The housing market had also gone by a bit. I'm always kind of curious about how much houses similar to ours are selling for compared to how much we paid for ours in 2011, so I knew what he paid for it in July. Once I saw the for sale sign, I rushed home and checked the local house listings, and lo and behold, he was selling for $90,000 less than what it was going for in July. He wanted to get out of our neighborhood. While his crime wasn't nearly worth $90,000, I must say that I don't feel bad. Worst case scenario, he sells that obnoxious car of his, which would easily cover the lost money. Let's just say that we haven't had a single car parked in my sister's spot since. Now, here is the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know your opinion. What do you think what OP and our community did is right or wrong? So before leaving, please hit the like button and do subscribe to the channel to stay tuned with us for more awesome stories.